Hello my lovely Flosstube friends, welcome back to the channel. Can you believe we're at September update already? It was like, I blinked and it was all over. But of course that was going to happen because it's September and it's my birthday month. So September has been a crazy and fun-packed month, but I always go a little crazy on my birthday month. Well, I try to, where I can. Thank you all for coming back and coming and hanging out with me. We've also got an additional 270 new subscribers to the channel, so welcome, and I hope you enjoy the videos and you enjoy what you see. I would just like to say, I have been watching the news this week whilst I've been working, and my prayers go out to all of those that were in the path of Hurricane Ian on the Florida's southwest coast. I can only imagine. I've seen the devastation. I hope that all of my stitchy friends have managed to stay safe along with all your stitching, and hope that you didn't get hit too hard. And for those that did, you know, my thoughts and prayers do go out to you, because we can only imagine what that must have been like. And I hope for those that it did hit, that you came off as unscathed as possible given the circumstances. What to say, people? September. It's been a little crazy. Teresa went crazy. Yeah, I know. I say one thing and I do something completely and utterly different. So we've had a few Stitch With Me lives that I did this month. One went disastrously and one not so disastrously. Part of that is that because I moved to the new office, although I used to do my monthly update videos all over the house with a freestanding camera, that's one type of video that I need to do. But then when I'm doing my lives, because it was in here and it wasn't quite set up right, the lighting is different, the room size is different, the tech that you need for that is different. So yeah, needless to say, because of some issues with sort of the whole setting up, taking down, because this is like a makeshift room. As much as I would love to sit here and tell you this is my stitching room, I would love this to just be my stitching room, but it's not. This is like a multi-purpose room. So it is my storage for my stitching. So all of my stitchy stuff is in and around me. It's also my office because I work from home. But it is also, in all intents and purposes, it is a spare bedroom, hence the bed. Although it's more like a bedroom for the girls. The two little poochies. Pictures. And the girls, although they do like to sit on the bed, they do get a little hot. So they end up on two beds down here next to me when I'm working. But because of that, we had some tech issues. And I got fed up of keep putting cameras up, taking cameras down. And I said, you know, one of the reasons that I think I struggled to find the time to do some of these videos and to do little Stitch With Me's or Stitch With Me lives is because it's the amount of time that it takes to put everything up and take everything down, or pull everything out and put everything back. So hubby, love him, for my birthday, well, I say for my birthday, he's done it I think because he thought I was going to have a mini meltdown, has made some adjustments, let's say. So we have additional adjustments now in this room. So there's more storage up there. There's a place for my camera that's way up out of the way, which means I can leave it up there. And I can do my videos and not have to touch anything. It doesn't look pretty. But then anything that's got cameras and tech and cables never looks that pretty. But this part looks fine. But when you look this way, it's a slightly different look. But it's set up now so that at least when I want to do a video, it's literally pull the stitching out, do the video, put the stitching back. Much easier for me to manage. And I'm hoping that this is going to make it so that there's going to be less need for editing of the videos, because I tend to find that I'll do my videos, then I'll need to put pictures in, and then I need to put this, that and the other and links in. But all that happens after I've recorded the video. And the problem with that is by the time I've recorded the video, put everything away and then sit down and do the editing. And the editing is, it takes a bit longer than it looks by the time I cut out all my ums and ahs, although I do cut out my ums and ahs. I don't think I know anyone that doesn't edit that doesn't take them out. So because of that, just to do a monthly update video for me sometimes can take me a whole weekend. It will take me a day to record, pull it all out, put it all back, and then another day really to do the editing, the uploading, and then do all the description in YouTube and yada yada. So I'm hoping that this is going to speed the process up, therefore making it a little less time consuming. Hopefully, the idea is that I'll get more videos up for you if this goes according to plan. So because of that, I wanted to give you a quick, just so you know, this video and the way that I'm going to record this video is slightly different. So whereas normally I'd be sitting here holding things up like this for you, this time I'm not going to. This time I have an overhead camera. I have precariously perched all the projects on the desk in front of me, and the idea is that I'll flip a screen and we will go top down and I can show you the projects down here. That's the plan. Let's see how this goes, shall we? So without further ado, shall we start looking at what I've got? Because there is just, like I said, it's crazy September. And although I didn't need any new projects, I may have succumbed and was totally enabled. So yeah. So shall we start with, let's start with new starts first, shall we? So back in last month's update, I think I let everyone know I was going off to the Essex Needles chat weekend, which was the 16th to the 18th of September. I got totally enabled while I was there. But one of the plans that I had from last month was that myself, Ellie Welliestitcher from Flosstube and Gina Stitches were all going to have a new start. It was one that we'd said we was going to do. So as you can see in front of you, it is the Bella Philipina Greta Goldbroom. And I was waiting on my fabric. So the fabric was coming from Kate at Sparkly's. It was a custom piece. So I started to panic. I'll be honest. I did panic a little bit that it wasn't going to make it. But it did make it. Kate at Sparkly's made the magic happen in the final days. So I think it was the day before we was going to the retreat, or the morning of, I can't quite remember now because it's all just a bit of a blur. The fabric arrived, so the only snag was that because it got to sort of 3 or 4 days before, I think it was about four days before the retreat, and the fabric hadn't turned up, so I didn't bother to order the threads because I was like, well, it's not going to, I don't think it's going to make it in time, so I won't bother ordering the threads, and I'll use something else and we'll just do the new start when the fabric turns up. However, the fabric did turn up and I hadn't got all the threads. So I sort of went there with it all, but said I didn't bring the threads with me apart from a few that I could find, but I needed to order some. So the lovely lady Gina, she shared with me some of the colours because she had them with her, because she had it fully kitted. So, first new start for September is Greta Goldbroom. It's a Bella Philipina chart. And here is where I've got to. Now, the fabric on this light, I'm wondering whether it's actually showing up particularly well. I think it is. It's a greeny... It's a greeny blue, and then on the outside edge underneath the grime guard, because you can't see it, or you can see a little bit there, there's some purples. So I said I wanted some purples around the outside edges, so that way when she's stitched, it sort of looks like the picture, so that there's some splodges of purple around the outside edges. That was the plan for this one. I don't think I did too bad, considering that I was at a stitching retreat, and then I worked on it a couple of extra days. So Greta Goldbroom was started on the 17th of September. So Greta got 3 days worth of stitching. So that was 1 day at the stitching retreat, because I think we started it on the Saturday. I can't remember whether we started it on the Saturday or the Sunday. But I think it got 1 full day at the stitching retreat, and then I done 2 days at home. This one is being stitched on. It's a 25 count Lugana by Sparkly's. It's a custom colour, but the main colour is Pisces, and then she's added some purple to it. So it is a custom. I'm doing it on the called for DMCs, and I'm going to do it 2/2. I'm not sure what I'm going to do about the skin yet. Just looking to see whether there is a fair amount of skin. I might do my skin 2/110. I'm quite liking the look of that. But yeah, so first new start for September, like I needed any. I know. Next up, so I got, you know, when you go to these retreats and people have the finishing table and you look at the finishing table and you're like, wow, it's amazing, it's glorious. I know. I was like, I love it. I love all the things. But then there are some things that, you know, when you're sort of sitting there thinking, although I love it, it's like, well, it's lovely, but it's lovely to look at. But there aren't that many things that I look at and be like, oh, wow. And just keep going back to the same thing. Well, have I got something to show you people? So whilst I was at the stitching retreat, a lovely lady, Natalie, she'd done a full coverage piece. It was a Heaven and Earth design by Lucy Pittaway, and it was called Watching the World Go By. And it was she had it finished. If I've got any footage of the finishing table, I'm not sure whether I took any. If I've got some footage of the finishing table, I'll put it in at the end of this video. But this is the design. Let me just make it bigger for you so you can see it. Would you look at that? Would you look at that? That is just, and it's one of those things that you sort of sit and you look at. And every single time I look at it, I felt like I was being drawn into it. So, of course, yes, I got enabled. What's new there? Nothing changes. So, me in my wisdom, I decided I needed to go and look at some of the artwork. So, I got totally enabled. Would you look at this? So, I couldn't, as soon as I saw the Watching the World Go By, I went on to the Heaven and Earth Designs website and looked at the artwork, and I just kept coming back to this one. It was just one of those ones that I never would have thought I would normally look at, but I just was drawn to it. Don't ask me why. Do not ask me why, because you know how much I hate to stitch white. And this has got a ton of white in it, yet I still want to stitch it. I'm crazy. I must be crazy. So I decided I was going down a rabbit hole, totally enabled by Natalie from the Essex Needles Stitch and Chat retreat that I went to, and purchased myself the Wall Shop, again artwork by Lucy Pittaway. So on one of the live streams, well, on both of the live streams from this month, I live streamed the new start. So it's being stitched on a 28 count gridded fabric, 2/1/10 stitch, and I'm using the CXC threads. And this is where we got to. Not too shabby. Not too shabby. We did have a few issues with it, I'll be honest with you. There were some issues with this one. And that was that I stitched, what did I stitch? I think I stitched 100 stitches there. And then the following morning I went and done another 100 stitches there, because that was when the live stream went disastrously. And then that night I went upstairs and thought, should I do some more stitching? I was like, no, I don't think I'm going to do any more stitching. I think I'll just sit and sort the threads out. So the way I decided to do this was that I was going to use my floss chips. So I decided to get a load of blanks and I would try them on the floss chips. And I would just write the numbers on, because this is my CXC threads. So I went upstairs. I started looking at page 1 of all the colours that I needed for page 1. So I've not done the whole lot. I've just done what I needed for page 1. However, it became very apparent whilst I was going through them all, and I was going on Pattern Keeper, that when I was looking at the colours for sort of here, there was a colour that it was calling for. And then when I've had a little look, it was like, well, I should have already stitched that. But I couldn't see the colour on one of these already. So I was like, ooh. But when I then went back and checked, I'd actually stitched everything on the first live stream in the wrong colour. Yeah, it went that well. It went that well. So I decided that I would rip it all out and start again. So that is exactly what I did. So I ripped it all out. That was painstaking, especially 2/1/10 stitch, because it's not like a full cross where you can just sort of break the thread and then weave it backwards and forwards. It was much harder. But I did it. It was painstaking. You know, lessons I learned. Check what colours you're stitching with when you're stressed. So I then had to go back in, restitch these two squares here. And then I went on another my redemption live stream to redeem myself. And I think we went on to stitch this one and this one. Since then, I've done another 400 stitches on that one. So yeah, I don't think I did too badly. And the beauty of this chart, or the beauty of this, is it's not really confetti. So this potentially could at some point be took on the train with me, and I could just, yeah. Hence the reason why I've gone with this setup for this, because this I can just roll up, stick into a little bag along with the little Q-snap, and I can actually stitch that on the train on the way into work. So yeah. So there is another new start. I know, it's craziness, isn't it? I didn't even see that one coming. I really didn't see that one coming. It was like it just sort of happened. I know. How can these things happen? I don't know how this sort of thing happens. But also, if that wasn't bad enough, so I had 2 new starts already for September, of which one was impromptu and one was sort of planned. I love to join Karen the Needlebug on her channel. I watch a lot of her videos. If and when we can, sometimes we have a lovely little chat, which is fabulous. Well, she sort of enabled me. She shared a chart that she was doing because she felt she needed more finishes, because all of her projects are quite big, a bit like myself. They're all pretty big, apart from the odd few. And yeah, I saw it, fell in love with it, and just thought all of the ideas. You know, when things just all start popping into your head, and you're like, oh wow, yeah, that's what happened, people. It did. So I contacted, and I was like, oh, I absolutely love that chart. And I was like, I'd love to stitch it with you. So she was like, love for you to stitch along with me. So, yep. She's doing Song of the Nightingale. It's a modern folk embroidery. So here it is. It is gorgeous. And in the picture, it's lovely. But I was like, well, that doesn't match my house. It really doesn't. So I need to change the colours up a little bit. So I decided that I would make it more in keeping with my house. So it's more house-like. What colours did we go with? So I am stitching this on would you believe it, right? Oh, hold your breaths, take a moment. This is a 40 count. I know. And I'm like, no, I can't stitch on anything over a 32 count. This is on a 40 count. It's a 40 count, what is it? It's a 40 count Newcastle linen in the colourway Silver Moon. Although you can't tell that it's Silver Moon. It's off-white is basically what it is. And I'm stitching it 1/2 full cross. And I decided on my colours that I was going to go with. So I went with 2 dinky dyes. So the first dinky dye is charcoal. So that is all of the grey stitching is in dinky dye charcoal. The teal sort of turquoise, we'll see this one is a variegated thread. So it sort of goes from a green to a teal to a blue-ish. But it stays more in the teal ranges and turquoise, which suits really well for my bedroom upstairs, my new space. So that one is called Serenity, that thread there. And then I kept changing my mind between using the silver, and then I put in some gold and I put in some black. And in the end, I decided to go with Petite Treasure Braid PB02. At first I thought that the silver would work, but the more I'm looking at the silver, the less it pops. So I decided I'd go with the gold. I can make that work. So yeah, so we have another new start. Another very impromptu new start, let me say. I don't know how this happens to me. I really don't. Oh, now the problem is moving all this stuff out the way. I'm not sure whether this video setup's going to work or whether I'll have to revert back to just using one camera and go all over the house. But For today, we're going to try this. You'll have to let me know whether you prefer this style of showing you my monthly update or whether you prefer it when I'm doing this. Okay? Just so that you know. So what's next, I hear you say? Well, there is another new start in the making. I know. Again, totally enabled. I don't quite know how to explain it to you, but totally enabled by who was it? Welliestitcher at the retreat, and we was talking about charts, and she shared with us a charting creations chart that she was in love with. So, Kiss, I've never done a charting creations one before, and I got totally wowed. And it wasn't wow as in, oh wow, it was like wow as in, I love some of that artwork. And because, see, the justification I have here is, I don't very often, she says, I don't very often stitch anything Christmassy. I mean, all right, I've got my winter white Santa, but I've only got really a face and a head. That's as far as he's got. And every Christmas I try and pull him out and put a little bit more on him. But it doesn't really make a dent. The only other Christmassy stuff has been like very, very smalls. So I decided that, do you know what? It's about time I went with a full coverage. Just because the artwork was too nice not to. So this is what we're going with, people. So this is Charting Creations. Artwork is by Ruben McHugh. And this one is Christmas Fairy Magic. I don't even know what to say. There was like 4 different charts of this artist, this Ruben artist. I procrastinated for days. And in the end, I had to pull all the images up on my screen, pull my daughter and my husband in the room and just say, which one do you like? And we had to just work through them of like, well, I like that one for that, but not for that. And I like this one for that and not for that. We got it down to 2, and then they turned around and said, which one do you want? Because one's got loads of just background and then one's got loads of stuff. And I was like, I think I want to stitch stuff because otherwise I'll get too bored. So this is going to become a new start. But I'm waiting on the CXC thread. So for those of us in the UK, you know that there is yet again another mail strike. So they're delayed in the post. So this hasn't started yet. The plan was to have it started in September. But like I say, I was procrastinating. And then by the time I ordered the threads, it was all a bit too late. And I wasn't going to make it in September. But I got the chart. The plan was to get it started in September. So it will be started in October. I know. But what I am doing and what I've decided is so that I could justify it. Do you remember back when I very first started stitching my full coverages? The easy guide that I could only get my hands on was this stuff. Which was the 25 count easy guide. But they're in 20 by 20 blocks instead of my usual 10 by 10 blocks. Well, I had a huge amount of this left over. So I was like, well, if I'm going to do it, and the fact that I've been stitching long enough now, and Alternative Reality is being stitched on this. So I know I can stitch on it. I need to use the fabric up. So I was like, what better project to do it on? So I had this in my stash. So I'm using stash. I've done the edges. It's all at the ready. So other than the threads and the chart, that was all I needed for this. So this one is going to be stitched on 25 count. I'm going to do it 2 over 1/10 stitch when the threads turn up. But the threads are winging their way to me now. Hopefully they should be with me around Tuesday, Wednesday of next week. So I will get my first stitches on that next week is the plan. Providing that the postal service speeds up and gets my post to me. So there you go. So that is all of the new starts. See, now I told you it was a crazy month, didn't I? I told you that it was utter craziness. And I was right. It was utter craziness. But I'm really quite happy, because now I'm like, well, you know, I can never sit there and say there isn't a project that I don't fancy stitching on now, because I've got a bit of everything. I've got plenty of full coverage. I've got some Christmas. I've got autumnal. I've got smalls. I've got little ones. I say little. You know, I've got Bella Philipinas. I've got samplers. Talking of samplers, I did say in September that I was going to do Sampler September. I might have failed a little bit with that, but not miserably. So part of the whips coming up, you will see that I did pull some of my samplers out, and they did get a little bit of love and a little bit of spoiling. So without further ado, first up of the whips for September. This one is Sarah Braizear. This is a limited edition chart. I can't take credit for all of the stitching on this, because this I inherited from Deborah when I went to Arizona back, just as COVID was coming. Me and Mary Perkins went to Arizona for 10 days, hung out with Deborah, and this was one of the charts that she was never going to do. She said she wasn't going to finish it. So I said, well, give it to me and I'll take it off your hands. But it is a monster. It is a monster. It is one of those things where I think I need to have it on something and out, and just do a few bits and pieces on it here and there. But yeah, it's inherited, but it needed a bit of love. So this one got 2 days worth of stitching. So it's been so long since I've actually stitched on this, I can't find a picture of where you last saw it. So the fact that it's really quite fresh in my mind when I last stitched on this. Here it is in all its glory. Like I say, I cannot take credit for any of this, apart from maybe here onwards. So Deborah had done, let's see how we can do this. So Deborah had done this bit and up to about there, I think. So I've been working on this section here. So I've done all this bit here. I think I've done some of these what look like birds, she says. I think they're birds. They're something. So I've done those. I've finished this. This is a page finish here. And then obviously we'll move on to the new page there. I think I'm ready to move to the next page, in all fairness. I'd finished the heads over here. Yeah, I absolutely love it, but whenever I get it out, it's so big. It's such a big piece to work on. Now, the only problem, I'm going to have to find out from Deborah what fabric count this is, because I have no idea. I have no idea what I'm stitching on. On the back of the book, it shows 28, 32, 36 and 40. I'm going to make a guess. She says, I'm going to make a guess and say that this is a 36 count. I'll have to find out from Deborah what it was, because like I say, I didn't purchase this fabric, and I can't take credit for any of this up here, because this was all Deborah. So I've basically worked sort of from about here that way, and then from about here that way. So yeah, that's as much as I've done. But although I took it off of her hands, it was always one of those ones where it was like, well, I'll take it off her hands and then I will start working on it. But I need to work it into my rotation when I've got clear of some of the other stuff that I've had for years. So the idea of Sampler September started. It just didn't really continue very well, I'll be honest with you. Right. So next up we have my Elizabeth Weston. Again, it's a Hands Across the Sea. So here it is. This is the one that was a birthday start, way back a few years ago. In fact, it might have been a year or so ago. It was more than a year ago. I started it on a different fabric. I didn't like it, so I ordered a new fabric from XDU Designs and restarted it. So Elizabeth Weston got 2 days worth of stitching. So here is what it will look like in all its glory. And this is where I've got to. Now, I have to say I am a little worried. A little worried. Now, I have got where you last saw it. So let me just share that. So that was where you last saw it. I'd done this bit, but I hadn't done any of this. So basically, I've done all of this and some of this over here since you last saw it. Like I say, a few reservations. I'm sure it'll be fine. Once it's actually all stitched up and it's hanging on a wall, it probably won't be too bad. But what worries me is that these real pale sort of cream colours are sort of a bit too closely matched to the fabric. What do you think? Because originally my plan was that I was going to stitch this on this fabric of all things, would you believe it? This was the fabric that I was stitching it on. It was on this. But I think it was a 32 count. I think. And it just looked like it was really big because I was doing it over 2. This, I think, is a 36 count. And I am stitching it over 2 on 36. But it is definitely a lot smaller. So I like the look of how the stitches look. But I'm not sure whether these are blending too much. What do you think? Given that I'm not normally a sampler type person, will that blend lovely? And it'll all look fabulous once it's stitched up? Or should I have put it on something like this so that all the creams pop out? Because that does worry me that they're sort of blending and disappearing into the fabric. So thoughts from the professionals on samplers out there. Your thoughts. I'm sure it'll be fine, or it's going to have to be, because I'm not sure that I want to restart again. That would be 3 times of restarting the same thing after I've already stitched this much. I'm just a bit concerned. The reason I went with that was because I liked the pink, and I was thinking, you know, it sort of looked a bit more like the picture, because on the picture it looks like it's stitched on like a real pastel pink. So that's the difference of this fabric, which is the newer one, and that fabric which was the original fabric. So yeah. Any thoughts that anybody has, I'm always keen to find out what other people think, especially on things like samplers, because they're not really my bag. This is sort of, I don't know whether this is sort of mingling too much with the fabric, or once it's all done, it will just look spectacular still. So yeah, any thoughts on that, I would welcome. So that was really as far as I got on my sampler September. I did have Tap Dancer, and I had Castles in the Air, and I had my Owl Forest, but the month got away from me. I just didn't have the time, in all fairness. Didn't have the time. So, next up, we have... So this was... do you know what? My chart is all sort of curled up. And look at it. It's all... You can tell this is a train project because they sort of get destroyed on travel. So ignore the dog-eared sort of chart, but you get the idea. This is what it looked like last time you saw it, and this is where we've got to. So last time you saw it, we'd done sort of some of the flowers, but I hadn't put the back stitch in. So as you can see, I put the back stitch in. I've done some of the greenery around the edges. And I've just started on this section here. So it's now we've got the heel to do. So where are we at? So yeah, I've got to do this, like the back of the shoe, and then the flower at the top and the heel. But yeah, I don't think we've done too bad there. Not too shabby. Given that this project really only gets touched sort of in the mornings and on the way home from work. So it'll get sort of, I don't know, an hour into work and an hour home from work. On the train, or just under, say 50 minutes ish. That's if I don't have a little nap on the train. So yeah, so I'm very happy with how that one is coming along. Also, this month, the plan was, I did say that I was going to pull this one out and I was going to get some stitching on it. It did get a day worth of stitching, I'll be honest. And that is my Littlehouse Needleworks Summer ABC. The only snag was though, because all of a sudden it's become very autumnal. So you'll notice I'm rocking my jumper. So the weather has changed, the leaves are dropping, and although I want this done for summer, I'm like, well, I've got plenty of time to do it because we're in autumn now. So I've got autumn, winter, spring before I actually want this as an FFO. So although I did stitch on it, I only got a day. So where did you see it last time? This is where you saw it last time. So last time I was working on the beehive section down here. And I said I was going to finish up this section here and then work up to the top. Well, I only actually finished this section here. So I basically put the flowers in. And that's really about it. The intention was to go up and start at the top, but I didn't. So that was as far as I got. And to be honest, I don't anticipate now getting this out for a little while. Because, like I say, it's summer. I do want it as an FFO for summer, but we've got the whole of autumn, the whole of winter and the whole of spring to get the rest of this stitched, of which, I mean, we've done over half of it, I think, or probably half and half. So I've got another half to go. That probably will turn into a train project, maybe in spring, and we'll get that done, I think. But I don't anticipate to see this for a little while now, because I don't anticipate stitching on it for a little while. So what I have been really drawn to this month is the drawn thread Welcome Christmas. Of course, we're in autumn. I want it finished for Christmas and I want it FFO'd. So where did we get to? Last time you saw this, we had got to about there. So we had half a stocking done. I then done a live, I done a stitch with me, and on that stitch with me you would have seen that I'd completed the first stocking. Let me move this thread out of the way, hold up, let's move that out of the way. I had completed this stocking here, and since then I've gone on and I'm working my way through this stocking. So I just need to get the foot of this stocking done, and the 1/1 stitching is over because I'm sort of over it. Yeah, love it, but I'm not enjoying working on the stockings 1/1. But it is very effective. You can't tell from so far away because the camera is so far away. But when we get up close and personal, see, that's the problem with this setup. I can't zoom the camera to show you what I'm seeing. You know, when it's like each time I do a video, I learn something new. I'm learning. This is great if I want just distance shots. But no doubt I will do another video very soon where we do a bit of a more close-up and personal stitching. Even if it's I use this one as a stitch with me or a stitch with me live. And you'll see what I mean. But the stockings look great in the 1/1. It's just a bit tedious. Especially in this cream colour. This cream colour, you can barely tell. You might as well not stitch them. But because I know they're not stitched, I can't deal with that. So what did this one get? This one got 8 days worth of stitching. Yeah, I know. It's a lot. But it is a lot of 1/1. And this has been a train project. And sometimes if I go off to bed, I'll sit and do a few stitches. It's had a few stitches in. So it might sound like a lot of days, but it's just touches. But yeah, absolutely love this one. Just needs, it's close to a finish. I mean, you think once I've got the stockings done and finished that, I've only got M and E to go. And that isn't 1/1. That's all normal 2/1 stitching. So yeah, I don't anticipate it taking that long. So next up is the lovely, she says, the lovely Alternative Reality. So this is what it will look like when it's completed. It will get completed at some point. I have started to pay some more attention to Pattern Keeper so that I can update you with percentage, because I know a lot of people do that. So this is where we have got to. I have worked mostly in this area here, and I've done this bit up here. So let me see if I can put a picture up of where you last saw it. So as you can see, yeah, last time you saw it, I don't think we had any of the blue. I think we were a bit closer to this bit here. So yeah. So Alternative Reality got 4 days worth of 4 evenings of stitching, and it's now at 24.77% complete in Pattern Keeper. I know, doesn't sound like a lot, does it? Not a lot at all. So yeah, I keep pulling it out, doing a bit, putting it back. But I'm now that I'm starting to get it all on a diagonal like that, I'm getting into a much happier place, because when I get bored, you know, I've got different colours this end, I've got a bit of detail in the middle coming along, and then I've got different colours this end. So as and when I start to find myself getting a bit bored and finding it a bit tedious, I can go to another end and start working my way back up the other way, so that way I can keep it on a diagonal, but I can change whereabouts in the chart that I fancy stitching. So yeah, it's taking its time, but we are slowly getting there, people. So the final project that I've stitched on, and when I say stitched on, this got one evening. This got last night. Last night, this got pulled out, and I got some stitching on it. And here it is. So I already had the inside edge, and I've just gone through and completed this outside edge here. So that was last night's stitching. So that's had 1 day's worth of stitching. I'm planning on keeping this out, I think, for a few days before I switch out. I think I just need to do a bit more bits. I want to try and get this corner finished. I mean, at first I was saying I was going to do this corner, then I was going to go and do that corner. But I don't really want to leave myself with all this border around this outside edge, in all fairness. So I might stitch this corner and then bring this edge down. And then stitch this corner and bring this edge down, and then do along the bottom, maybe. I don't know. I think I'm going to have to see how I feel. I'm getting concerned though that I don't want to sort of get used to doing this corner and then go and do something else and then forget how to do the corners, because some of these, especially these specialty stitches, they take a little while for me to remember what I need to do for what ones. So it might make more sense to complete this corner and get these specialty stitches in and get it beaded, and then go over and do the same on this side, and then do the boring stitching around the edge. Yeah, I think I'm just going to have to bite the bullet and decide. But it really does need some more love. I mean, if I'd have made this a focus piece, I probably would have had this done by now. But you know me and focus pieces. I say one thing and do something completely different. So back last month, you'll remember that I shared with you this Bella Philipina chart that I'd purchased from a retreat. And I absolutely fell in love with it. Well, I was waiting on some fabric to come for this. And it came from Sparklies. Here it is. There's my fabric that I'm going to stitch it on. It's a Sparklies fabric, 28 count even weave in the colourway Aries. I think it's going to work perfectly for that. So yes, there will be a new start, but not. I need to get at least one Bella Philipina done before I start this one. I know. I really do need to stop buying all the things, and yeah. There's only so many new starts a girl needs, right? And I think I'm sort of getting there. I think when I looked at my spreadsheet, it's getting a little out of hand, but I am thoroughly enjoying myself, I have to say. Upcoming, what is upcoming? So I have got a Mirabilia retreat in October. So 21st to the 23rd of October, I'm off to a Mirabilia retreat. Can't wait for that, although I'll probably take my winter white Santa because I think it makes total sense. That is a Mirabilia, and I'm going to a Mirabilia retreat. And then I think what I'll do is I will probably take some of my Bella Filipinas with me as well. But I think the intention is to get some love in on my winter white Santa. I'll put some pictures here of where you last saw it. I think so. I'm looking forward to that. I think that's the last big retreat, that actual retreat that I'm going on this year. So yeah, something to look forward to at the end of October is really quite nice. Looking forward to that and getting some love on my ladies and gentlemen, because it's almost like I've gone from stitching on all of the Bella Filipinas and all of the long dog samplers to just nothing but full coverage and chatelaines. So what else to tell you? So plans. Now, although I'm sitting here saying, you know, I want to stitch on this, I want to stitch on that, and you've seen all these new things that I've started, I have decided that I would like this year to stitch some Christmas presents, which will probably become my train project. So some of the projects, such as my High Heels collection and my Welcome Christmas, the Welcome Christmas may turn into like a stitching at home thing. And the High Heels collection might be put to bed for a little while, because there are 4 Christmas presents that I would like to get stitched this year. They're quite small, but by the time I've stitched them and then I've FFO'd them and then get them all packaged up and ready for Christmas, I need to sort of get a wiggle on with them. So there will be some of that. However, I'm not going to share them on the channel. I'll share pictures after they've been, after Christmas. I'll probably share pictures, but I can't share pictures on here because just in case anyone that they are for sees them. So yeah, we don't want to give the game away. What else to tell you? So on Sundays, normally when I'm doing my Stitch With Me's, not lives, but my Stitch With Me's, and when I do my monthly updates, I normally, she says, loosely, normally record and edit and upload everything on a Sunday. But for the next 6 weeks, Bonnie and I are off to sniffer training on a Sunday morning, which is only 9 till 10. But by the time I get her back, it's 10:30. And by the time I've played with Honey, because she'll get all, you know, you left me, it'll be nearly 11 o'clock. So the chances of me doing my stitching, you know, my stitchy updates and getting all the recordings and stuff done on a Sunday is unlikely, because there just won't be enough hours in the day. So the plan is that I'm going to try and make sure that I do these on a Saturday. But if you haven't heard already, if you have not heard him in the background, you're lucky. But hubby is at home, because this is what happens on a Saturday. And then he goes on a phone call and he shouts and bellows. And yeah, so hence the reason why doing videos when he's in the house is never a good thing. That's another reason why I think I'm sort of slightly distracted on this video, because he's distracting me, because I can hear him. So if I can hear him, chances are you can hear him. So I do apologise if you can hear him shouting in the background. But yeah, so needless to say, normally I try and do these on a Sunday when he's nowhere to be seen. And everything is nice and quiet on the home front, and I have no plans for the whole day. That won't be like that for at least 6 weeks, because me and Bonnie are going to go sniffer training, and she's going to go and use her nose. So for those of you that know about my handy dandy spreadsheet that I use through the course of the year, I put a little picture in here so you can see what I'm talking about. I use an Excel spreadsheet day by day, just so that I can track what I stitched on, how many days it got touched on. It doesn't drill down into how many stitches or anything like that. It just makes it so that I can see trend lines as to what projects have been stitched on, how much, and then if anything's being totally neglected. That way it makes it so that if it's being neglected unconsciously, I can correct it. If it's being neglected consciously, it leads me to coming to my year-end review, making a decision of whether I'm UFOing it or not. So I find it very helpful. The spreadsheet is on my website, on my blog part of my website, for spreadsheet, Project Tracker 2022. I am going to try to get the Project Tracker 2023 up and on the blog around November time. That's the plan. So finally, what I was going to say is I'm currently working on a Google document which basically answers a whole ton of questions that I get in the comments on most of my videos. So because I have to keep repeating what I say in the comments where people are asking questions, what I'm going to try and start doing is I'm going to have a link in the description box below, which is a Google document. And within that Google document, it will share all of my projects, what I'm stitching them on, what colour fabrics, where I got them from, my tools that I use, my stands that I use, my IT tech that I use, because I get so many questions and it's always the same question that I have to keep going and researching, because it'll be like 3 months later I'll get the same question again. Oh, where did you get this, or where did you get that? And half the time I've even forgotten what it was. So this way I have a perfect reference, and you will have a reference to anything and everything that are in any of my videos. So if you go onto any of the videos, you just click on the Google document, and what will happen is as and when I get something new or that I have a new project, I'll update that so that regardless of which video you go on, you will see the most up-to-date version of that Google document. So it just would be nice to try and save myself some time, because yeah, the problem is I'm now finding that people ask me a question, I answer a question in the comments because at the time it's fresh in my mind. But then I get comments from videos that are like 4 months ago asking me the same question. And then I'm sitting there racking my brains. And although I try to scroll through the comments to find where I know that I answered that question once before, the problem is yeah, I could be scrolling forever. So then 9 times out of 10 I've forgotten, and then I have to go and sort of research to find the information that they're looking for. So this way it makes it so that all of the information that you're likely to want is accessible. And then if after looking in the Google document that you can't find what you're looking for, then of course ask away, people. But please don't be upset if you ask me a question about something that I've shown in the video and I just basically copy and paste a Google document link to you, because it's just basically saying everything that you want to know about what you've asked is in this document. So I think that might be a better way to go, because yeah, I'm spending a lot of time researching the stuff that I did years ago just so that it makes it so that I'm not ignoring people's questions. So there we go, we're done. I don't know how long that took. I'm hoping that it didn't take too long, but I've got a sneaky suspicion it took a lot longer than I realised. Like I say, if you don't like the setup of this video, please let me know. You know, it may be that I don't like the way that this has gone, or this loads. If this still creates a whole lot of editing, then I might as well revert back to me holding things up and going like this. So yeah, but any feedback that I receive from you is always greatly welcome. And until next time, people. Bye bye for now.